are bright and shiny in my mind. You got me loving, hating, crazy indecision in my mind.
Welcome to the Fall Podcast, where the focus is on deer hunting, tips, tricks, tactics, and stories from across the Midwest. And now, here is your host, Aaron Blasey.
Welcome to the Fall Podcast. I am your host, Aaron Blasey, and this is episode number 45. It's colder than crap here in Michigan. Justin, how was the weather over in Iowa?
It's pretty white today. It snowed all day, turned into some freezing rain early afternoon, and then the wind just picked up and everything's kind of icing over, I think. The snow stopped, but one of those things where I think if I don't look at it, it might not be as bad. So I plowed the driveway one time, and I came inside and never looked back out.
I'm the same way, man. It is. We've got like a sheet of ice as a base layer, and then it snowed a couple inches last night, and then we've got 12 to 15 inches going to start here shortly tonight.
Jeez.
And we're going to get hammered this week. And I'm like, all I want to do is I want the snow to melt a little bit so I can get out and walk and try to find some sheds and get my dog out. And I want to go check some cameras. But I guess on a positive note, it is keeping me from going on my farm right now because I just keep saying it every week. I don't want to pressure the deer. I don't want to run them off, and you know, it's colder and crap out there. I know they can survive in it. I know they're meant to live in it, but it's like, just hunker down and all the hinge cutting that I made for you and just stay there. There's food there. There's water there. Just don't move. And drop your sheds right there.
Yeah, let me know you're okay. Just leave me a sign.
Exactly. I don't know. Snow's a drag. The winter's a drag sometimes, and it just keeps dragging on and on and on. But I guess on the positive side is we get to do these podcasts in the warm comforts of our own homes, and today we got another good one, and it is your intern, I guess I'm going to call him, Cooper Long.
Yeah, he is. He's been living with me for 6 months. I actually met Cooper about 5 years ago now when I first got started as a freelancer. He was part of a group of guys who hired me out of Wisconsin, and a series of unfortunate events with one of the guys in that group that taught me my very first, most valuable lesson in this business. But I was able to maintain a friendship with Cooper and his family, his mom and dad and sister, and the other guys that were involved with that hunt. But they invited me out every year since then to hunt, and so Cooper and I have been hunting together for 5 years now, and he's on his way out of college now with a recreation and tourism degree, and all he needed was an internship to graduate. And I said, man, why don't you just apply for ours? It's a 6-month deal. You're all done with class, so couldn't hurt. And lo and behold, he got offered a position. He moved out here to Iowa. He was living the camper life with me for a while until my wife moved out. We bought our house, and now he's got his own room, his own bathroom, and he's washing his clothes in the basement. So it's been cool to see him come up because of how I met him, when I did. And, he was the hunter, I was the cameraman, I was greener than a gourd. And now it's kind of come full circle to where I've been able to teach him, kind of the way that you started teaching me back in 2013, I guess it was. It's just a really cool story, I think, and it's something that I think so many people have questions about is, how do you get started, or what was your first shot, or everybody needs that first shot. So it's just cool to have it be somebody that I know who is a great hunter. And I mean, you just talked about sheds. He's already found 2 match sets, and him and I walked public land last weekend with another coworker of ours. He found 1 out there. I think we did almost 7 miles that day. And then he went back to Wisconsin over the weekend and found, like I said, 2 more match sets and 2 that were just, 1 horns. But, I mean, he's a freaking coon dog when it comes to sniffing out these antlers. You can just see the drive and the passion he's got for hunting across the whole spectrum. And to see him pick up a camera and say, this is what I want to do, it's just cool to see that fire in somebody else. And, we're there to help him along the way and get it figured out.
And what the cool thing about him is that, he's never picked up a camera before this. Coming into this internship, you taught him basically everything, on the side, and he's coming into this internship, and what you've told me of him is like you said, he's a hard worker. He's going to do anything to be successful at it, and that's just what it takes in this industry too. I mean, you don't really need a degree. I mean, there's a lot of guys that don't have degrees in video productions. You're one of them. We've got 2 other guys on our staff that don't have them, and 2 guys that do have them. And it's like, it's just about your drive and determination, and just doing it, repetition. They always say in sports, repetition, repetition, repetition. It's the same way here, and it's just seeing different things and being able to see things before they happen. Honestly, try to be one step ahead, and you'll be successful for sure. And I'm excited to get him on the phone, and I've heard you talk about him a lot, and I say we do that. Let's kick it over to this phone conversation we had with him and go from there, man.
Yeah, let's run it.
But before we get to that, if any of you guys are in the market for new cables and strings, look no further than America's Best Bowstrings. And if you want more information on them, go to americasbestbowstrings.com and tell them the guys from the Fall Podcast sent you. Also, if you guys are looking to tune in to Drop tonight, Monday, February the 18th, Dropped is on the Outdoor channel at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. So go on there and tune into episode 3. It's a really cool episode, and the season's just getting started. I love reliving it because, I got to live out there with those guys for 30 days, and Lee and I got to produce the whole show. So it was a really cool experience. So go on there tonight, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, and tune in. Hopefully you guys will like it. All right, on the other line, we have Cooper Long with us today. Cooper, how you doing, man?
I'm really good, man. How about yourself?
Doing good. I'm doing all right, I guess. I'm a little lackluster right now. I'm having surgery tomorrow on my hand, and those locust trees out there, when you're checking trail cams and you decide to fall into one, I guess, and you get one down in your hand, and it's been in there for 6 months, I guess it's probably time to get it out.
Yeah, I'd say ouch.
So anyway, Justin and I wanted to get you on the podcast today, and you've been Justin's roommate for basically the last 6 months because you've been interning at Midwest Whitetail, and Justin was telling me you had a pretty good story about how you started in this industry, and I kind of wanted to get your story out there, and because I think it's pretty cool, and so did Justin. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Sounds good to me.
Yeah. So before we get too far, you want to kind of introduce yourself, where you come from, how old you are, and kind of lead us up to where we're at right now in the present time.
Well, I'm 25 years old. I went to college for recreation and tourism, and somehow ended at Midwest Whitetail with a internship for the fall, which was a blast.
So, you're 25, just got out of college, and did you have any sort of idea that you wanted to get into this industry or do any, filming? Did you grow up as a hunter, or was this just one of those things that you're like, this is kind of a career path, I'll just go this way?
Yeah, man. I mean, I grew up hunting. I mean, learning from my grandfather and my dad. It was always just a huge passion of mine. And, I always kind of wondered, I was like, oh, I bet that's really cool to film those guys hunting. Just because I've had some awesome experiences in the woods, that I kind of wish had been filmed. So once I became aware of this internship, and obviously knowing Justin for a few years now, I knew I'd learn a lot just coming in, but I guess I didn't know I'd learn this much. So it's been a great time so far.
So when you first came into Midwest Whitetail, you didn't have any video experience whatsoever, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
So you never touched a camera. I mean, you probably played around with a handy cam or something, growing up, or, just basically point and record, but nothing to the caliber of like what a television show deals with, right?
No, not at all. I mean, just like you said, pick up a camera, push that snapshot quick and take a quick picture. Otherwise, nothing. I feel like none of the details needed to produce a good hunt, for the viewers. So.
Right. So, I mean, were you like super intimidated when you came into Midwest Whitetail with all these people? There were probably some other interns that were with you that probably had studied or, took up videography in college, and you were basically starting from square one. I mean, how did that make you feel?
Yeah, man. I mean, I was super intimidated coming into this internship, knowing basically nothing believing most of these guys had a background in filming, whether it was hunting or, like you said, going to school for it. I definitely knew I had my cut out for me, but I put in some hard hours and long days, and you can learn real quick.
Right. In these times, this day and age, you could go onto YouTube or, online somewhere, and you could Google a certain camera and it'll tell you how to run it. It's pretty crazy, and I actually went to college for video production. So I spent my 4 years in college studying this, but that was also in the age, like right when I was coming through college, the DSLR hadn't taken off at all, really. I mean, my junior, senior year, you started seeing like the Canon T3Is and the Rebels and stuff like that. And that was like the first, DSLR camera that people were really playing around with. So when I came into my internship with Rusted Rooster, I had a 6-month internship it was supposed to be, and they hired me after, I think it was 2 or 3 months. But I had to learn from square one with a DSLR camera. And I was fortunate enough to have, they had some Canon 5D Mark IIs at the time, and that's the camera that I learned on. And I learned a lot just coming through my internship. I actually learned a lot more. I'm not saying anything bad about Ferris State University, because I did learn a lot there. But they didn't teach me about like my field, being in the hunting industry and filming hunts. So I learned, that's what I mean. Like I learned more when I was there and about that than I ever learned in the 4 years there. But that's my thing. Like throw me into the fire and let me learn, and see how clean I come out on the other side, because that's how I learn the best. I mean, you can sit there and talk to me and try to teach me till, you're blue in the face, but unless I get hands-on, that's when I learn the best, really. And I don't know, Justin, are you that way too?
Yeah, I think that's just a great example, because when I first started, I came to the Rusted Rooster Film School. My background is in wildlife science, so I had no hands-on technical training or education with a camera or production of any sort. I just started taking pictures and putting videos together for clients that I guided hunts on, which is where I first ended up meeting you down in Texas. But, it's like you're saying, if you want to learn how to weld, you join a union. Let somebody who knows what they're doing teach you how to do it. And I mean, last week we talked with Lindsay, and it was like a full circle story, and you taught me back in the beginning, and I'm finally in a position to teach somebody else. And you're the only one who came out of school, in the first place as a baseline education. So it's kind of, student becomes a teacher here, and it's been kind of fun.
Yeah, it honestly has. And it's been cool to see, like, you and I met back in 2012, and to go back and look at that and kind of what we did back then. I mean, we were only together for what, like 10 days, on a hunt. You were our guide on the hunt. And, you and I we over a lot of beers, we talked a lot, went coyote hunting a lot, did a lot of cool Texas things. That's why I love Texas now. Oh, yeah. But, coming from there, and then, like you said, the Rooster School and everything, like there's a lot you can learn from another person. But to me, like I was saying, to get in those scenarios and to screw up and know not to do that, or to succeed also, it's just, you have to throw yourself in there, and, it's just different scenarios. And when you're in a tree stand with whitetail hunting with a camera, you never know what's going to happen. I mean, you could be, like all three of us, we grew up hunting since we were little, but knowing, being on both ends now, being the hunter and then being the producer, it's like there's so many other scenarios that can arise in a tree that you don't get while you're hunting, but when you're being a producer, and you got to know both. You really do.
Yeah, and that's something that makes us valuable, and that's something that I kind of relied on when I was freelancing before I came here, because there's a certain value in knowing that your camera guy is not just a techie, that can take a good picture. He knows what's going on in the hunt, and that you're going to kind of be in sync. And, that was one dynamic that Cooper and I had all year here in Iowa, because he was filming me on all my public land hunts, except for the one I killed. But he got dispatched down to Mike Reed and he filmed 2 really good kills with Mike this year that were in focus, very well exposed and just very well executed for somebody who just got thrown into a tree, like you're saying, trial by fire.
Right.
And,
so Cooper, your first hunt that you ever went on, what was that hunt?
That hunt was definitely terrifying a little bit, thinking going into the hunt, I mean, in the off season you can prepare and, you can learn as much as you can obtain at the time. But with that said, I mean, like trial and error, I mean, messing up one day, coming back and watching your footage, seeing what you did wrong, and then correcting that the next day and just learning and capitalizing on those minor errors, before it really truly matters when you're in the tree stand for a hunt,
Yeah, so it was a whitetail hunt in a tree stand?
Yep, whitetail hunt, public land with Justin.
Okay, so was that the night you guys saw the good 3-year-old coming across the water?
Yeah, actually, and I seen that 3-year-old, and I got this thing when I came to Iowa. I thought every buck was just huge, like completely shocked, And I see this buck across the creek, and I'm like, trying to signal to Justin at the same time without making a huge scene, and while trying to capture that on camera, So, I mean, it was definitely nerve-wracking few minutes until I realized I actually got the shot after, so it all worked out.
Yeah. And it's no matter where the deer is, it's the first person who sees it, the answer is always right there. It's right there.
I'm really bad at that too.
It was, Justin, giant. There's a giant right across the river. Right there. Oh my gosh. I don't see it. Where is it? Right there.
And I'm trying to push record, get this deer in focus while signal to Justin while shaking like a leaf up there, like I was the hunter that day. So it was definitely very nerve-wracking. I mean, yeah, at the same time, looking back at it now, I mean, it was one of my favorite hunts this year. I mean, not only did I learn a lot, but at the same time, Justin and I had a great hunt together. So it was a very good first outing in Iowa.
So, I mean, you had that first set, and then you got a couple more sets under your belt. Now, were you starting to feel that comfort level, or the stress level, I guess, or the anxiety kind of come down to a more comfortable position where you felt like it was starting to become second nature? Everything is like, in the heat of the moment, especially, just like when you're a hunter and you've done it for so long, when that buck is committed, it just, your instincts take over and you're a killer. Now, same thing with a camera. When that moment, arises, did you start feeling your instincts just kind of taking over and it's like, oh, I know how to do this. I've been here before. I mean, did that ever come to you?
Yeah, absolutely, man. As far as comfort level throughout the season, I mean, it was every day you were hunting in the woods, whether you were getting some B-roll going to the hunt for those initial interviews, or getting that buck and that perfect focus, just doing that over and over again. I mean, it just kind of implants that in your brain, as if you were the actual hunter trying to harvest that deer that day. Yeah, I mean, the anxiety level definitely decreases as the knowledge, increases.
Yeah. And I've been doing this for 7 years now, and I still have anxiety on certain things, but, and earlier in my career, I got to film quite a few different people, but I mean, for the last, I guess 6 years or so, I've only ever really filmed Casey in a tree, and him and I mean, it's like a quarterback and a receiver now. It's like, it's just things that you've picked up. I mean, it's the same way for him as well. It's just things you've picked up over the years that, he's going to do this, and we don't even have to talk about it. I remember the first couple of times that Casey and I even hunted, we'd get in a tree and we'd sit there and we'd go through every scenario. Okay, if a deer comes here, what are you doing? And then what are you doing? And it's like, okay, can you film there? Yeah. Can you film here? No, I can't film there. And then we've even got kind of like little, talking, I guess, little words that we say, and we just know like what's going on. But now it's like, Casey knows that if I don't say anything, like he knows if we have a deer committed and we're gonna try to get on this deer and take him, he knows that I'm gonna not say a word until I shut him down. if he stops the deer and I say no, then we got an issue. But it's just a rapport that you have that you'll gain with somebody, and it takes a while sometimes to do that. And a couple podcasts ago, Justin was talking about how he thought it was beneficial to have a hunter as a field producer and editor and vice versa. And I can't agree anymore. That's a hunter. In my eyes, you want a hunter, a guy that's hunted and knows hunting, to be your field producer or be an editor, because there's just little things that they pick out, little detail things that the viewer wants to see that maybe a non-hunter wouldn't, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, that hunter cameraman dynamic, I feel like, is one of the most important things to learn. I mean, granted, I got to hunt with Justin most of the time, and when I wasn't with Justin, I was with Mike Reed. And so, I mean, both those guys, I definitely got to develop that hunter cameraman dynamic. I mean, especially as hunting as much as we did, that comfort level and those, like you said, those shots that, the viewer would like to see. You got to get that shot. You can't, it doesn't just miraculously happen,
Yeah. And it doesn't happen overnight too. It comes with a lot of hard work, and I'm sure it sounds like you've put in the hard work, but it's crazy to me that, that you never have really had a camera in your hand or nothing until you came into this internship. But it's really cool though, because, it just shows how much work and effort you've put into it to get to a level where you think you need to be, and a level where everybody else, around you wants you to be. And that's just really cool. And that just says a lot about you and what you're about.
Yeah, man. I mean, I would say the most important thing, especially being new to the industry, I mean, you got to be willing to put your nose down and grind. I mean, like you said, there's resources out there. I mean, fortunately, I had Justin in the same house as me if I had questions, and poor Justin actually he had a lot of questions, sometimes real late at night, but he was a trooper, helped me out a lot. So
I will say that I think you drink more Monster than anybody I've ever met in my life.
Hey.
If they're $3 for $5, he's buying 6.
Hey, I mean, you got to get those hot deals. If you need that extra boost, at midnight to get that blog edited, you got to do what you got to do.
Oh, man. Those are going to kill you, man.
Yeah. I'm glad it's off season now. I can recover,
Yeah.
And, Aaron, one thing I'd like to add to that, what you're talking about, is that in regards to that dynamic, having a hunter on camera and behind the screen at the computer. But Cooper and I have been hunting together for 5 years before he even decided he wanted to jump into this. So we had a little bit on our side. I had a lot of confidence in him when it came to getting in the tree that first day, just having been friends with him for 5 years. And he was actually part of a group of guys that hired me for my very first freelance job 5 years ago now. So I've got some pretty valuable footage of young Cooper as a little buck squirrel tied into a tree. Actually, on the same mountain that he just found a match 160 set to.
Yeah, man. I mean, that was definitely our first hunt, wasn't it? Up there, I forgot about that. It's been a while.
So, Cooper, have you been doing any editing as well?
Yeah, I mean, my knowledge coming into the internship was absolute rookie as well. But at this point, yeah, I am editing some shows. I mean, whether it was Justin's Public Land blogs or Mike Reed's blogs, and as well a regional show. With that, I mean, I was given all sorts of footage to make these blogs and, the weekly regional show. So, I mean, I definitely had the content there to, learn and try to make as best I can for the viewers to watch.
He actually had kind of the best and the worst of both worlds. He was shooting and editing his own footage with me and Mike Reed, but he was also editing the Great Lakes regional show for Midwest Whitetail, which was shot by the guys within that region who would submit the footage on WeTransfer. So that's a double-edged sword, as we all know here.
It really is. But the best thing that makes you stronger, not just you personally, but anybody that's trying to do this, what makes you stronger is being able to edit your own footage. and vice versa, shooting the footage that you can edit. Because when you get it back into the edit bay, you're going to be like, well, shit, I didn't get that pan when I need a pan, or I didn't get that tight of my eyes, or the tight of the release going on the, on the string, or, it really makes you grow quicker, I think, as a producer and as an editor. So that's huge that you got to be able to do that, because you get to see the flaws that you had in the tree when you're trying to edit it. And you're like, man, this story just sucks. What do I got to do different to make it better? Or it's like, wow, I nailed this one out of the park. Or, I'm out of focus, or the audio's bad. Like, you're the one, with your head on the chopping block, trying to get these videos out in the right, in the timely manner. So that's what's going to help you and help everybody else out there that's trying to do this. And that's when I saw it was really clicking for me. And I mean, it took me a couple years to really start coming in my own as an editor. And honestly, I love to shoot. I really do. I love to be out in the field producing a TV show and, being the head guy of it, and just kind of take it and running with an idea. And especially when you've got like other producers that are like underneath you, and you're trying to, you're bouncing ideas off each other, and you're trying to make this TV show 13 episode. But honestly, the last couple of years, I've really taken more towards editing, because I've got a guy underneath me right now on our brand team, Kyle, that he's going to be my assistant editor for Rival Wild. And today, actually, I was kind of trying to groom him a little bit. And we, in four straight days, we were hunting, but we had 5 guys in 2 different states. And, we like to stay in chronological order, but it's taken those 5 guys' storylines, if they even mean anything. Like, one guy's got a storyline that he hasn't even killed a whitetail ever, so he's going after his first whitetail. Chris's storyline, he's going after a mid-170s deer he named Big Snaky. Casey's he's in Iowa, and he's trying to get on a deer, any particular deer. We're trying to find one and hunt him. And then JB, he's got another storyline, and it's like trying to take those 4 or 5 storylines and weave them into one storyline in a way, if that makes sense, but really take it over like the next 5 episodes. And I love doing that. I love making storylines. And in my opinion, doing a vertical hunting show is one of the hardest things, to produce, because you're basically making storylines as you go as well. I mean, you do have those storylines where you're like, you can do some scene work that, with no deer, or with, a dead deer that you've killed, but you can't dictate what the deer movement's going to be. You can't dictate what, Mother Nature's going to do. So it's trying to adapt with those storylines at the time. I mean, you could have a snowstorm blowing out of nowhere. That's a storyline. You know what I mean? So it's, you really got to find out what the shots were that you need to show your viewer. And one day I had a foot of snow come in. So what are the shots I have to go out and get? And then you got to think like an editor, how's this going to go into the show? So it's really cool dynamic. I just love it.
Yeah, man. I mean, like you said, being able to edit your own footage, I think, helped me a ton. I mean, you go that first hunt, and then you watch that over, and you're like, oh, like you said, I missed a pan. But like, for example, when I filmed Mike this year, he had one target buck, whether it was on trail cams, past encounters. We just hoped that buck would get into shooting distance. And I mean, I just had a feeling that it was going to happen. So I was trying to get all those cool shots, leading up to that day that we potentially might harvest that buck, just to build that storyline, and give the viewers more than just the hunt to be interested in,
Right. Yep. So what do you see yourself like gravitating towards more? Do you like the producing side, or do you like the editing side behind the computer? Like what are you, is it a tie right now? You're just kind of learning everything, or, are you gravitating towards one or the other?
To be honest, I'd say it's kind of a tie right now. I mean, I'd say most days of the week, I like to sit down and edit. I mean, if you shoot your own footage and you just have a feel to what that hunt is, you kind of see that as an editor, when you're in the field, therefore making that job when you come home much easier. So with that, I mean, it's hard to tell. I mean, I really do want to improve on both at this point, just because I'm still a rookie, I would say, at this point. But yeah, I mean, I definitely would like to stay in the industry, whether, it is as a producer or a filmer, I mean, as long as I'm in the woods, I'm pretty content.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the best thing that I could tell you is just learn as many things as you can, because that's just going to make you more versatile and more, and give you opportunities and other things you can do. Now, one thing I do kind of kick myself in the butt for is I don't know After Effects. I know it a little bit, but I don't know it to be like deadly. So I can't really do a lot of graphic work. I can do lower thirds and stuff like that, but After Effects and like Cinema 4D, stuff like that, like I just don't have the time right now, because I'm either in the fall, I'm in the tree, or when I'm not in the tree, like right now in the winter and the summer, I'm producing the show, I'm editing it through the whole summer and everything. So there's not really a lot of time for me to learn it. And that's just one thing I'm just kind of kicking myself in the butt for not learning before I got in here. But I'm fortunate enough to have a guy, we have a graphics guy at work that, you just tell him what you need and what you want, and you can kind of mold it together with him. And that's kind of nice. But like, other than that, like when I sit down in an edit bay to put a show together, I do everything except the graphics. So I do sound design, color correction, rough edit, final edit, everything from A to Z, except, like I said, graphics. And I love that because, if I ever had a different job where, let's say you go work on like a mainstream show, like a TV show or a movie, you're going to have 3 or 4 different editors working on that, and you're going to have different parts that you're going to have to be doing, and then you're going to have a sound guy, and then you're going to have a graphics guy. So it's like it's going to touch all these hands. But if you go into that knowing how to do it all, that just makes you much more valuable. And that's why I'm glad I learned from the beginning at Rusted Rooster, and those guys threw me into the fire and said, hey, learn all these and take it from there. And I'm super happy that I did that. I guess if I had any advice to you, or if you wanted any advice, I would say, try to make yourself as versatile as you can and learn as many things as you can.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I have nowhere to go but up. I mean, just continue to learn and put myself out there, whether it's in the freelance world or whether it's with the media company itself. I mean, at this point, I'm pretty much willing just to continue learning and improve on what I already know. I mean, I know there's flaws in, like, whether it's an edit or in a filming while I'm out hunting, but I know there's room to grow yet.
Right. And there really is. And the thing is even me being, doing this for so long, every time I go into the field producing, there's always something that is going on that I haven't ran into yet, or a scenario or something you just got to take a step back and think about the whole storyline, and how can you twist this, how can you turn this, and where does it have to go. So that's what's cool about it. It's never, I mean, yes, it is the same. It's the grind every fall, every morning, every night. You're hunting, or you're, glassing, or trying to figure out a deer, and and you kind of get into the mode too, like where I've been with Casey for so long, is him and I are extension, or I'm an extension of him. He asks my opinion on a lot of hunting things a lot, and just wants that second opinion. Like, what do you think we should do here? And I love that about it, because it kind of makes me feel like I'm in the game as well. And then, there's times he helps me produce, because him and Chris are really good producers as well. I mean, they've been around a lot of productions and a lot of good productions, and they know the game too. So it's pretty cool to be able to do that. You don't feel like you're out there alone, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and Aaron, to that point, one thing for me that always is kind of validating with your hunter is when you're rolling that recovery and they say, we did it, we killed it, we saw him coming. It's like, it's never me, look at me go, it's, I mean, in my experience, it's always been a team effort. And when your hunter acknowledges that, that's the reward for me when I'm running the camera, especially
Right.
when they ask
Yep.
your questions like that. Like, what do you think? Or should we do it? Should we not? Should we go in here? You know what I mean? Just all those things that get you involved. It's just cool.
I agree, man. And that's I respect that about them so much, because they don't have to ask my opinion, or, you're just filming this, you're just producing this, you just do your job, I'll do mine. But it's not like that. And it's, when you're grinding so much and you're gone 2 months out of the fall, I mean, straight months. I mean, we're gone like I'm away from my family for a month at a time just in the fall. Then we'll come back for Thanksgiving for a week, and then we go back on the road for another couple weeks. So it's like it just makes it easier when you're away too, when you feel like you're in the game, and you want to be hunting just as well. You're running the camera, but you see all your buddies knocking down deer and everything, and you want to be at deer camp and camaraderie and everything. But it just helps that as well. I don't know. So I think I got a question for both you guys, and whoever wants to tackle it first. But what do you think is the toughest thing about a whitetail hunt to capture or to lay down, basically, like from start to finish, whether it's getting out of the truck or getting to the stand or kill or recovery? What do you think is the toughest part in your eyes?
Ooh, I'll let Cooper take it first.
Yeah, I think I got this one. I would say the toughest, I don't know if it's the toughest, but the part of the show that I'm most concerned about, other than making sure I get that kill shot recorded, and in focus, but I would say is B-roll on your way to your hunt. For some reason, some guys are worried about scent and all that kind of stuff, so you're trying to maintain that scent-free atmosphere while not wearing your clothes to the hunt, So I know there's been times with Justin where I'm getting dressed 20 minutes away from the stand and shooting him driving down the road, whether it was, like you said, that it's crazy snow out or just something that makes that story. So I would say just capturing the entire hunt while trying to be a hunter at the same time.
I can see that. Yep. And I can, kind of how we've combated that, that scenario right there, because that's a good point. A lot of people, even when I came into it, I was like, well, you got to be running the camera at all times. Well, how I combat that is, I've got a floater camera that I walk into the stand with me, so I can handheld it. I can, wherever right then, if we need to run and gun as we're walking into the stand. For as far as driving shots, and I'm going to let out some little secrets here. A lot of people don't like letting secrets out, but I'm going to say them. The driving shots, those aren't done live, for me anyway. Those are midday when you have some downtime and you're like, okay, let's go get some driving shots. And half the time, it's not even Chris or Casey driving the truck. I shouldn't say that.
Wheel.
Yeah, so it's like just Lee or I. Somebody, let's go get some driving shots. But the reason why is because we don't want to take any more time away from their job and what they need to be doing and trying to get on a deer and kill a deer when we're trying to do our job. So if that just means we need to go out for an hour, if it's Lee and I or Rich and I or Kyle and I or Adam and I, it doesn't matter. We need to go get some driving shots or something like that. That's what we need to do, because that's us doing our job, and we're not taking away from them maybe studying some maps, shooting their bow, making sure their gear is good, figuring out where we're going to hunt that night. So it's like that balance. But like when we're going into the stand, I like to have that floater camera, and I'm going to get shots of Casey live, but I'm not going to swing out and get away from as far. I'll sit back a little bit, with a 16 to 35 lens and get a wide, and then I'll kind of catch up to him a little bit and say, hey, let me go ahead of you a little bit. I need you to walk right at me. I'll get a couple of those shots maybe for a couple of days, different scenarios, in sunny days and cloudy days, stuff like that, all different scenarios. So I know as an editor, I can use those on any day that I want. So I don't have to necessarily get those shots every day that we go on the stand, because just like you said, Cooper, is the scent is a big thing, and we don't want to mess that up. And I know everybody's probably bummed now for hearing that, we're filming each other driving when it's really not the guys, but that's just the only way I can say is it's just like, I don't know. I just don't want to take time away from them when they're trying to get on a deer when we still need to be producing this show. So there's a little bit of give and take, and that's the best way I can combat that. But I agree with you. Like, that is a tough part of it, because when you get in the tree, I mean, everything kind of comes to you. You're there. I mean, the deer, you're waiting for the deer to come to you. You can get B-roll shots in there and all that stuff, but it's that extra stuff, midday, or I don't know. It's just that extra stuff that really brings the story and the show together, that you really have to pick out and figure out when you're going to shoot it and when it's going to be the most effective.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, like you said, I guess one thing that Justin has kind of not really said, but just emphasized on is basically always carry your camera. I mean, be ready for that shot, you know, and those are those shots that can help make that story in the end, you know, whether you don't harvest a deer after that day or whether you harvest it at the end of the season, you know. I mean, all those shots leading up to that point, I feel like have helped me edit, you know, whether it's a blog or a show in the end, you know. You just know what shots make that show.
Yeah, there's a purpose
Right.
for every shot. There's a place for it.
Well, and the other thing is, too, you know, there is a purpose, definitely, but it's in how you shoot it, too. Like, shoot everything in 3 different compositions, a tight, medium, and wide. You got to think of stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, there's a time for tights, there's a time for mediums, and there's time for wides. And, you know, let's say there's a deer coming through a field or the woods at you, you know, and, you know, as a producer or a cameraman, now let's be clear, too. I've said it before. There's a difference between a cameraman and a field producer, and
Yep.
we can break that down later, but there is. And basically what a cameraman is, a guy that can just get up in the tree and press record and put the camera on the deer. You're not really asking him to do much more than that. That's just basically what it is. Get a kill shot. But anyway, so with that little rant gone there, so, you know, a deer's coming in, approaching the stand, and as what you're kind of taught is to be tighter on the deer. Well, if you know you have enough time before he's going to get to the stand, get a tight for 10 seconds. Then pop out and get a wide. Try to get your hunter and the deer as he's coming in so you can have that wide shot.
Yeah.
And then same thing with a medium. Kind of get a medium. And then when he gets in close and you know there's going to be a kill, because you can't recreate that.
No.
So get in tight once he gets there and get the moment of truth. And then you can go back and recreate. I try not to recreate at all. I don't like to recreate. I try to have enough cameras rolling at the right time to get everything live. I think I owe that to the viewer. And, you know, a lot of people think that everything's recreated. Well, everything's not. I mean, there are some recreates, but I try to do everything live. Like,
well, that's the way it used to be done.
exactly. Because it was always a one-camera shoot.
Yeah, right. And that's right, because they only had one camera. So
Yeah.
it was always just get the kill shot, go backwards.
Right. So now it's like, you know, we go in the field with at least 3 cameras every time, and those cameras are running live as a deer's coming in every time.
Yeah.
It just is. It's not just me. It's Lee. It's Adam. It's Kyle. It doesn't matter. I mean, we're all trained the same. So it's like, you know, when you watch Rival Wild in our show, you know, the guys, Chris or Casey or whoever's hunting has an angle they're looking at, and it stays static. You know, it stays there. It's framed the same every time, and then you've got one that's tighter. Well, we're running 2 cameras on that, and then we'll usually have a bail shot, a wider, whether it's a GoPro or, you know, some sort of POV camera or something. But it, you know, when the moment of truth, all those cameras are running because, like I said, I owe that to the viewer to try to get that in a live moment, and it just makes the hunt a lot better, you know, because you never know. One of those wide shots could pick up the deer that's coming underneath you, but you're on a tight. So that's what I mean by bail shot is, you know, you're tight the whole time. And that's another thing too. If you do have cameras that are wide and everything, that allows you to be on a tighter frame on a deer that's walking in. If you know your wide bail shot has the deer, you know, and the hunter over the shoulder in frame, you know, you can follow that deer with a tighter shot and maybe get more detailed stuff. So it's just, you know, if you have more cameras, run them.
Yeah. And going backwards to something you said, like, if you have time to roll a wide and, you know, push in tight, if he's coming from 100 yards out, you know, you've got time to play all that stuff. But I always sit there, like, asking myself, should I roll the dice? Like, I like to play around with the rack focusing. Like, do I have time to execute something else? Like, can I get this or am I gonna screw it up? Usually for me, it's like high risk, high reward, so I go for it.
Yeah, and there's times too, like in the rut, you're rattling a deer in, they come in hotter than crap, and you can't get every camera running. But honestly, if Casey's getting ready to blind call, I'm running all the cameras right away. I'm syncing them up, and then whatever happens from there.
Yeah, that
but
was me this
if a
year.
deer just catches you by surprise, there's nothing you can do about that. And I'm sorry to the viewer, but you just can't. So you have to recreate whatever you can. But I can tell you 9 out of 10 times I'm getting everything live, and that's no lie.
Yeah, I do the same. Kind of what I tried to get Cooper into this year is we always had at least 2 cameras in the tree. And, I just see in his footage when he was working with Mike, I know he carried that over because there was times where even in a tree stand or sometimes it's even harder in a blind because you have to have a tripod set up and that just takes up more space. But you killed Curly out of a blind and you killed, I don't know what the deer's name was, but you killed
that was just a random.
Yeah, you killed that rando buck. Yeah, and that was out of a tree. So you had two different setups on 2 different kills, and I think you had 3 cameras on both.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely learned that from Justin as well. I mean, the importance of a GoPro, I mean, even if it's an older one, I mean, just having that different angle to show, like you had mentioned, maybe that deer coming beneath the stand while that target buck's out at 30 yards. I mean, all those extra angles just really help make that show, I feel like, in the end.
Yeah, it does. And, you're just talking about you guys killed one out of a ground blind and one in a tree. I hate hunting. I hate filming out of ground blinds. There is not one good ground blind out there, or box blind to film out of, with an exception of probably a Primos double bull, just because of the window setup. But I hate it because, and this might sound weird and random, but like I hate filming with a tripod, but I hate not filming with a tripod, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because you're almost forced to not use it.
Well, the thing is, in the back of your head, you're thinking too, like, you want to have the tripod because you want the footage to be the best you can have it. But then the tripod limits you to your you're just there. You can only pan so far, and you can't move it to one side of the blind or not, or you might be doing a little bit of a dance move with the hunter in the blind, and it's like, geez, it's like it just sucks. You just want to pull it off and go handheld, but then it's like it's gonna be not as good footage. So it's like you got to find that happy medium, and what's the best way to film it, and what's gonna make it the best, and it sucks because you could be hunting a deer for 3 weeks and finally he shows up, and the tripod could be the make or break if you make a noise, or it's just there's that fine line of just figuring out the happy medium.
Yeah, man. I mean, I got a perfect example of that on Mike's curly buck this year. I was out of a blind, and we used a long lens. The deer is roughly about 200 yards away, and in the blind you want to get that reaction right after the shot. And with that long lens, we were obviously unable to do that. So I'm trying to get that kill shot, deer run, as well as the hunter reaction all at the same time. So I'm picking up my Sony off the floor to try to film that while getting the deer, And I will say it is not easy.
No, it's not. And that's the thing too. Like a lot of the ground blinds or box blinds out there aren't big enough really for 2 guys and a camera. But what we've done, and then what we try to do, is we have these little tripods called Benros, and basically they fold up into about 3 inches in diameter and about 10 inches long, but they can go pretty high. I mean, it's not it's a tripod, but it's not one with like a fluid head on it. It's literally a camera you put on so it stays static, and you can do time lapses and stuff like that. So what I'll do is I'll stick it between me and Casey, and my SLR, I'll put it on that facing right at him with a 16 to 35, so you can get wide, and that's how I usually run that. But this year we've kind of, and you guys will see as we go into the start airing on TV in third quarter, is we're starting to do a little more vlog style kind of stuff, and it's not really hard or not really easy to do a vlog after you kill something, and we don't really do that right after you kill something. But I agree, getting that initial reaction when you've got like a 7200 lens on your camera, or 50 to 500, and to going from daylight outside the blind back to dark, and trying to get your iris and your shutter back down to get some light in, and it's a debacle. It really is. And it's like you're trying to make it the best you can, and sometimes you just kind of got to take a step back and like, all right, we got to do that again, and it's really hard to recreate. Like you guys know, it's really hard to recreate the initial reaction.
Yeah, that's, just talking about setup real quick. In the ground blind, I'm kind of, I don't even consider the tripod 9 times out of 10. I'll run my DSLR because I have a flip screen on my 70D, so I can turn it around and frame everything up, pull focus, monitor my exposure as the sun rises or sets. But I run a 10 to 18 because my DSLR is 1.5 crop. So I run that 10 really low as the tripod can go, looking back up at us, centered. It gets the entire blind. I think it actually goes a little over 180 degrees. Like the lens picks up over 180 degrees.
Wow. A 10 to 18?
Yeah. And
what's the f-stop on that? Is that a 4 lens or is that a 2.8 or a...
It's a 2.8. No, it's a 4. I'm sorry. It's a Canon kit lens. It was like $140 at Best Buy.
So you're giving up some light with that f4.
A little bit, yeah.
You're gaining it. You're gaining more in being able to get a 10 millimeter wide, really.
Right, and you've got that DSLR quality with audio on a live second angle that's out of the hunter's way. It's out of your way, and it just frees up enough space for you to set up a third angle if you want, like on a GoPro or any other POV camera. But I sold my AX1 this year, but it's a bigger camera, and I just started really locking that in. I would hold that right up to my eye almost, hold the LCD screen right in front of my eye, because I found that, plant your elbow into your hip and then just get that thing right against the side of your head, and anywhere you're going to look with your eye or your head's going to move, it's going there naturally because you're following the animal. So you're always going to be in frame. And you've got 3 points of contact, and a warp stabilizer can usually fix any little blip.
Yep. Boy, warp stabilizer is my friend. I warp stabilize shots that are on tripods. That's how anal I am about it. Yeah. And for everybody out there listening about a warp stabilizer, so when you're editing footage and it's got like a little bounce to it or a little jitter, it's not as smooth as you want it to be. When you're in Adobe Premiere, which our edit software, you can throw an effect on there. It's called a warp stabilizer, and it makes it smooth. Now, every shot, if you're driving down a train track with a vehicle and you're freehanding in the vehicle and it's bouncing all over, you're not going to warp stabilize that. But the little bit of bumping, and it'll take care of that. Warp stabilizer can be your friend. I like that.
Yeah, I will say that was definitely my best friend. Still is at this point, but definitely when I was first starting at it.
Yeah, and it's something good to have, and I'm glad that they started, because they honestly haven't had warp stabilizer only for a couple years. It hasn't been a thing. When I first came into the industry and was editing and stuff like that, they didn't really have warp stabilizer. I mean, I think if After Effects had it, but like Premiere, you couldn't do it right within Premiere, and now you can.
So I want to rewind for a second and kind of try to bring this to a close. So, Cooper, 6 solid months from zero to buying your first camera, a mirrorless A7S II, and editing on totally foreign software, blog style and show style. Where are you going to take it from here?
I mean, that's a great question. I mean, I wish I knew the answer, but I hope up. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, because you got the show and the blogs, which are semi-live, so I feel like getting thrown into the fire was perfect. I mean, I had no choice really other than to go film my hunt, put that blog out. So, I mean, I feel like that has given me a solid ground, I guess, as far as going to film hunts. I mean, the shots you need, and you know how that edit's going to go afterwards. So, I mean, as far as going from 0 to 10, as far as absolutely new to the industry, I mean, I'd really like to continue. I mean, it's hard to put in words, honestly. I mean, I really like it. I mean, I had a blast doing it, and I know I have a lot to learn, and I plan on doing that. I mean, Justin, you can help me out with that, I hope.
Yeah, I mean, from what you said, you don't plan on leaving Iowa, so.
Yeah. Too many big deer around here to leave. And you got to teach me a lot more.
Sounds like you're going to have a guy on your couch for a while.
Oh, he's got his own room and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, geez. Look, next thing you know, he's He's gonna have a girlfriend that's gonna stay with him. She's gonna have 3 dogs, so it's just gonna add to the fuel to the fire.
I don't know, man. Like, that's one thing that was out of Cooper's mind, I think, the last 6 months. I think as long as he knows there's more work to be done, then he's going to keep his head down. He was doing that all season long. And, Cooper, I will say one thing that really impressed me with what you did this year is that, for the most part, only had to show you how to do things one time. You always remembered menus in Premiere, or you learned your own camera very quickly. Once you learn those settings on the camera, like the zebra, the peaking, and just knowing your camera, you went from having to set up a shot in 10 minutes to 10 seconds.
Yeah, I will say, I mean, it definitely took me maybe 10 minutes to get a good shot. Especially when you don't know. I mean, I was always thinking, I'm doing something wrong, whether I wasn't in focus or I was shooting too bright, it goes back to trial and error. I mean, you see what you did and you remember how you had those settings on your camera, and you apply that to next hunt and every hunt after. I mean, it just kind of grows. I mean, it becomes like second nature, I want to say, I hope.
It really will, because, how you said it'd take you 10 minutes to set up a good shot. One of the big things that I had overcome too is once you do get that shot and what you figure out what you want to shoot, it's holding that shot for at least 4 seconds.
Yeah.
Count 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, 4 1,000, even 5 or 6 1,000, because as an editor, you're going to want at least, 4 to 6 seconds for a shot, because when you get, guys, they get handheld and they start moving around. It's like, okay, I got that shot, move to the next, move to the next, move to the next. And it's like you get a lot of 2-3 second shots. I should go back and say at least hold it for 6 seconds, because at least you'll know you have the minimum that you want, or, I don't know. It's just one of those things that I think of from day one till now. When I'm getting shots, I still hold it for 6 seconds. Like, deer coming in, I want to get a tight for 6. I'm going to come back for, 6, come back for 6, with a medium and a wide. Then I'm going to go back in it, and then I'm going to leave it, unless the deer gets so tight on us where he's coming in underneath, it's going to be over the shoulder. I'll go wide again and get the hunter in, get the deer in, and it's all, you just got to feel it out. But I guess that would be the biggest thing, is just hold your shot for as long as you can. And it's like 6 seconds when you're counting is a long time. Oh, yeah. It really feels like it.
That's like, I like to think of it as follow through. Like, you want to set it up, you hit record, you get what you want, but don't stop recording. Like, finish it out, get what you need before, like the actual shot that you want, like lead into it, and then lead out of it. And I think that's something we actually went over on the canoe trip that first time out.
I was just about to say, that was one of the first things I think I learned. I mean, Justin and I went out to do some scouting, and I came back with a bunch of 3 or 4 second clips, and not even realizing it really. You think you got that shot, but you don't know what the editor has to do on the other end to make that shot look good, So it's definitely one of those things. I mean, just like Justin said, wind up, get your shot, and follow through. It makes your life a lot easier when you're trying to edit that show afterwards.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, it sounds like you're on the right track, and I'm glad I get to sit down with you, and all of us got to have about an hour and talk about this stuff. It's pretty cool. I like to hear about guys that are coming into the industry, and especially guys like you that really didn't have any experience before, and coming in doing this and starting to excel at it a little bit, and that's really cool. It's a really neat story, and I want to thank you for coming on and doing this. And I know Justin, he's probably thankful that you come on too, but it was pretty cool you come on and do this and take the time. I know you guys are getting ready to leave for Salt Lake tomorrow, and
yep.
I'm going to be getting knocked out and having surgery, so
yeah, we're going to head out to the Western Hunting Expo out there, and Cooper had his taste of ATA this year. He got to go down to Louisville for the ATA show, and I still had a tag to fill and stayed back, but we were in Utah in August. Cooper drew a mule deer tag, and I went out to film that for a few days, and here we are 6 months later going back, hoping to win a couple tags.
There you go. Well, hopefully you can find some guys down there that might want to do a quick podcast or something. I know you guys are going to take the gear and stuff.
Yeah.
And Justin, maybe you can sit down with a guy or two and or gal and and talk some short podcast. Maybe we'll see if we'll have something coming out of Salt Lake here in the next couple weeks, and maybe he'll bring some content for us. So, but again, man, I want to thank you for coming on, and I appreciate it. And I say we get this one wrapped up.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me, man. It was a blast. First podcast in the books.
And there it is, man, and another good one's in the books. And like I said it before we started, and I'm going to say it again now. It's just a cool story, you know, for how he came up and didn't know shit about cameras, and now he's producing content for TV shows and web shows, and it's sweet. It's 6 months, that's all it took, and you know, it's a testament to his work ethic and his teachers, you and everybody else at Midwest Whitetail.
Yeah, it really, you know, I don't want to take all the credit for that, because there's an office full of people that, you know, helped shape 6 interns this year that we had. So, like I said, Cooper's been a friend of mine for a while now, and he was able to live with us here at the house for 6 months, and I had that 24-hour, you know, hands-on opportunity to, you know, to give him everything he needed, or help him with whatever came along, you know, throughout the course of the season here. But like you said, the coolest part about it is that he was a hunter to begin with, but he never touched a camera before. And I think that's kind of what drives us all to want to pick up that camera, is because it's like, we know there's got to be more to it, or you watch the shows and you're like, man, that's got to be such a cool job. Whether you hunt or you film, you're both in the same situation. You know, you don't got to pull the trigger to feel the same success, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And,
right. Yep.
You know, there comes a point, you know, in the evolution of any hunter, I think, to where you start to feel that, like, and if you have to at least acknowledge it or recognize it in some way, shape, or form. And, you know, Cooper's just one of those guys he's grown up in hunting everything from squirrels and cottontails to mule deer and whitetail. He spent some time in Utah before his folks moved back to Kansas last year, and now he's here in Iowa. And just, it's a cool story from, you know, zero to producer, or from hunter to producer, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it was a great story, and I just kind of want to foreshadow, I guess, you know, some ideas you and I have been kicking around for some podcasts, and that's literally like you and I taking listener-submitted questions like we have been doing with the coffee call, but I think we're going to do one long form. You know, we've had a couple people reach out to us and want to know more about producing hunts and editing hunts, so I think we're going to do a couple here in the next couple months or weeks, you know, where we're literally breaking down how to produce your hunts and how we do it, the tips and tricks that we kind of do. I mean, I kind of let out a couple on this podcast, but there's a lot more that go along with it, and just things to make your life a little easier and try to get out the best product out there that you can get out. And I'm super excited about doing that, and I can't wait to do it. I think we should start rolling those out here the next couple of weeks for sure. Yeah,
that's a really good topic, and I mean, we both know that could be 1 3-hour conversation, or that could be like a 3-episode series on the different ways to do all that. But that's a whole nother animal. So I'd really love to get into that. And,
it is.
You know, one thing you asked us that I didn't get a chance to answer with Cooper was, you know, what we thought was the hardest part about producing a show from the field. And, you know, I want to answer that now without getting too far into it. But for me, it's those trips where you're just grinding it out for 10 days, 12 days, or, you know, in your case, like with Dropped, where you're gone for 30 days at a time. And you're dealing with challenges like, you know, solar chargers and tent life, and just the monotony of the kind of the slow parts of the hunt. You know, for me, it's the hardest part is knowing it's the mental aspect of knowing you have to go out there and record every day, because you never know when that kill is going to come. And, you know, if your hunter wants to wear different pants than you wore yesterday, you know, that just ruins everything you had from the day before. Like, you can't use it over, but you got to realize that's a new day. This is a new part of the story. And it's like, you know, that gets into that stuff like you were saying about the difference between a cameraman and a field producer. Like, you have to recognize that stuff. And we've talked about it in the past, that you can power through any of that physical demand, like we talked about with you in New Zealand and me in South Dakota. And it's, you know, it's all mental, like we said. And if you can't overcome that mental demand, whether it's by pushing yourself another 20 steps or by maintaining your storyline, you're not going to make it. And that's, for me, I admit it, I get into those situations where I just want to say whatever. I already did that yesterday, but it's easy.
Right.
It's easy to do that and tell yourself, but then it's like, well, what if we kill today? Or what if that happens? It's, if I don't have it, then number one, either I'm not getting paid or it's not going to look right.
Exactly.
So, again, I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole, but I don't know. It's something I struggled with a lot in the beginning, but just like you said, repetition, and it just becomes another wave, in the battle. You got to get through it.
For sure. And that's all it is. Just grind it out and keep your nose to the grindstone, and things will come out good, and just do what you're taught, and, think outside the box. That's all you really got to do. Try to think outside the box and get your niche, and things will work for you. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
For everybody out there.
They do.
Well, cool, man. I'm gonna wrap this one up. Let's let's cue the outro music and wrap this one up. And I do want to let everybody know, thank you from both of us. Say it every week for listening and downloading, and we really appreciate it. And this Friday we've got another coffee call, and it's gonna be really sweet, and it's gonna be a little different, and I can't wait for everybody to hear it. So make sure you listen to that one as well. So I guess this is us signing off, and sure, yeah, we're going to get out of here.
I am natural.